Welcome to the November 6th edition of the PFF forecast. It is Sunday night. We just made it through an overtime with perhaps the greatest passing offense that we've ever seen and the worst passing offense that we've ever seen. Somehow that went to overtime. But we're going to talk about the biggest takeaways from a day that saw Aaron Rodgers look terrible, Tom Brady bring it back to life, and almost two huge double-digit favorites lose. So it'd be a good recap with Ben Brown, and then we'll guess the Week 10 lines with Arjun. Let's rock. All right, fellas, we have made it to Week 10 of the NFL season. I'm George. I've got Brad and Ben Brown here joining me as usual. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. Members of the printing press that have been here for a while, welcome back. Hope you had a wonderful and profitable Sunday and entire NFL week. We got one more game with Brad's New Orleans Saints. I say Brad's New Orleans Saints. That's only because he also gets the Bears, so we have to give him a little bit of extra love there. Although nice little week for you and Justin Fields. What's happening, fellas? How did our week go?
Not much. I think I said last week that I was riding too high and riding the wave. So I did have a losing record on my picks from last Sunday. It was due. But yeah, look, when Justin Fields sets a single game record for rushing yards, I'm happy no matter what else happens on a particular Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Brad. I think, there was obviously some down spots, obviously some good spots, but it was, I would say, really entertaining weekend. I do think there are probably a lot of takeaways as we kind of, head toward the latter half of the NFL season here coming up.
Look, I was bamboozled, hoodwinked, led astray into betting on Sam Ehlinger and the Colts today. Right. So, no matter how bad it was for everybody out there, if you avoided that, you can be happy. I did live bet the Chiefs, though, and that got me over the hump today. Also, the Jets cashed their over win total. Right. And people, some of the Jets fans, and I'm sure they're all listening right now, think that I hate the Jets. That's false. I've bet the Jets over 5.5 multiple times. They went over there. I think they're the first team to go over their win total this season. So that was cool to see. Here's what we do. We start off with one big takeaway from this week, and we have a couple of good people to talk through it with. So let's start with you, Ben. What was your big takeaway from this week?
Yeah, so last week I did say, I thought league-wide scoring or game-level scoring was probably going to get a little bit of a rebound. We did not see that, I would say, really as much in week 9. I think 4-7 for the over basically through the first 11 games. But I do think there were a few games that actually kind of showcased some offensive capabilities. And I think that kind of, speaks to the point I was trying to make last week. And I think the reason why we're seeing scoring down so much is, the dramatic impact that pressure has had on quarterbacks specifically this year. I think, the league-wide pressure rate has kind of held steady from prior seasons. But the problem is we're seeing, so many more pressures converted into sacks. And I think that, the pass blocking and everything else is kind of held constant. So I do think the play under pressure specifically is kind of the one downfall. And I think that, when you're kind of trying to evaluate where teams are, quarterback play still very much matters. And I think that there was maybe a discussion of, if other things were maybe kind of taking some of the lion's share of where quarterback play kind of fit into the overall pie for how successful a team could be. But I think that that's, not necessarily the best way to kind of approach it from a betting perspective. And I think that if you look at quarterback play specifically, and there are, outside of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, probably just a handful of other guys that are playing really well, especially from a clean pocket. But I think those are very much teams to buy into. And I think that, specifically a team like the Miami Dolphins, with Tua back in the fold, very much, I would say, are probably close to, if not the best offense in the NFL right now, with kind of Mike McDaniel pushing all the right buttons for them. I know, Seth Galina, the Wednesday night guest on here, had a really great film breakdown of kind of their bread and butter play, the quintuple option sort of situation. But I think that is kind of the one spot where offenses can kind of gain an upper hand or an upward leverage type spot. And it almost kind of needs, I would say, the threat of a rushing quarterback in that particular position to actually kind of be able to, circumvent some of this too high safety look. So I think, specifically a team like the Miami Dolphins and also a team like the Seattle Seahawks, who, Geno Smith's been a top 5 quarterback, throughout the whole year from a PFF grading perspective. And I think they are, very legitimate contenders in the NFC based on the quarterback play. And I do think that, if you're evaluating where the NFC teams kind of stack up, Geno Smith has been, I would say the best passing quarterback in the NFC. And I think that is, one reason on top of many others why me specifically, but others have been very late to the party on the Seattle Seahawks. And I think that's probably an overstep. And I do think that they could very much, not only win the division, but, make some noise, I would say, in the NFC conference as well.
How crazy would it be for the Seahawks to go Seahawks in the NFC title game? Is that?
I mean, I don't think it's crazy out of the realm of possibility, but how I'm looking at it right now is I do think they are very much in contention to win some of these awards that so many people talk about, right? Whether it's coach of the year because, they greatly exceeded their win total. But I think that, there's at least some sort of case for Geno Smith to at least be in the MVP discussion. Like, obviously he shouldn't be the favorite or anything like that, but if they kind of continue to string together some of these victories, I think he was at like plus 4,000 last week. I think if he's anywhere, within that range this week, I will definitely be betting him because I do think that, given where they're at and where they could easily finish, there's going to be some awards headed in their direction just based on how much I would say they've overachieved, from preseason to where we finished at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, maybe comeback player of the year or something like that.
I mean, the problem is what did he come back from in that case, right? Is the only real discussion point or whatever.
Being written off. He was written off.
Being written off. But I do think, and I do think specifically with Geno, we talked a lot about 2021 quarterback class as well, but I think, his kind of evolution or whatever is also going to be an interesting case study for how we evaluate some of these young quarterbacks and if they have any shot of, potentially turning it around, later on in their career or something like that as well.
I mean, let's think about this. Brad, I'll ask you this. So let's go to the NFC. The best offenses in the NFC. We start with the Eagles. I think they're the best offense. Who's number 2? Who's the second best offense in the NFC?
I think it is Seattle because I think until we see Dallas get more consistency out of a guy like Michael Gallup, see Dak Prescott play some good football, I think the answer is genuinely Seattle. I mean, you have the Metcalf-Lockett combo. Geno's playing good ball. I think that's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. If you look at EPA per play, it is the Seahawks is the second best right there with, interestingly, the Atlanta Falcons, which is super weird. But you don't really take the Falcons seriously because of their lack of passing game. But I mean, the Niners are up there.
Minnesota's got a good offense. I don't know.
Minnesota's got a good offense.
They can move the ball. Yeah.
Brad, what was your big takeaway?
Yeah. So my big takeaway going over kind of the AFC, the Raiders have now lost 3 games this season in which they led by at least 17-0. One of them was against Kansas City. One obviously today, and they were up 20-0 against the Arizona Cardinals and lost that game as well. They had 5 in their entire franchise's history of doing that. They've done 3 in 8 games. And so my takeaway was Nathaniel Hackett the second worst hire among AFC West head coaches this offseason? That's my question back to you. I mean, it's hard to understand, hard to fathom how it keeps happening. I think Chandler Jones is one of the worst value signings of the offseason. You basically gave him the Von Miller deal, and he has a sub-60 pass rush grade. You're trying to pin your ears back and win these games, and it's still just Max Crosby and a bunch of Jags. It's strange that they can be this bad in situational football and closing out games. And we hear about how Josh McDaniels is a genius, and it's crazy to see happen again. And I wonder if you're if he's going to lose the locker room or if he already has at this point.
It's so interesting because they're 10th in EPA per pass play this season. So I was talking to Timo a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Look, I think the Raiders are the best 2-win team out there. They're still the best 2-win team out there because they still have 2 wins." But yeah, it's strange, man, because it almost is reminiscent of what Gruden did there with the Raiders, where they stunk, but they had a seemingly good passing offense. And if you're losing games and you have a good passing offense, like you do kind of have to look at the coach, right? Because it's like, how are you losing there? But do they really? I mean, they don't. Obviously, they're not going to start like playing for next season, right? So they've just kind of.
They signed Sidney Jones today, so they added a cornerback because they went all in and just decided to not have corners, not have an offensive line. Because you can go all in and just neglect very important positions apparently. So they're still trying to make something out of it. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy it's one thing to, I mean, I guess it's another 1-score loss for them. Jacksonville's now 1-6 in 1-score games. So they finally get their regression there as well. But just the manner in which they're losing these games, it's not even like fluky, like punt returns. Like they just collapse. They just fold up. My big question you talk about playing for next year. My thing is Derek Carr signed an extension that basically was a 1-year deal. And then the Raiders can either get out of it after this season or they can essentially opt into several more years going forward. Why? Like, they spend so much elsewhere. I get it. But, and again, you said they're 10th in EPA for drop back. But I don't know. I would probably like hit the reset button at quarterback, use that as an excuse, draft high and see if you can kind of, you spent all this money, spend it around, I don't know, Will Levis or whoever and figure it out from there.
It's interesting. Brady, obviously, in the Bucs kind of, figured it out on that last drive day, although it looked pretty miserable for the entirety of the game. But a lot of rumors about Brady wanting to go back to San Francisco, finish his career at home where he grew up. They have an interesting situation there with Trey Lance, obviously, like, because, he's going to be out for the entire season. So he'll be in his third year, having played a whopping 5 games. And, are the Niners so stubborn because of what they've allocated that they don't want to go to Brady? But Brady obviously has that history with McDaniels, and that would be really fascinating, right? And right, the rumor is that of course Derek Carr was that guy, right? That there was this play to have them go to the Raiders, and that was all set up and ready to go, and then they decided to back out at the last minute. So that would be super interesting, and I guess you maybe keep McDaniels around to see if you can make that happen.
I mean, you got to try. Yeah, it was supposed to be him and Gronk, I guess. We're going to go to the Raiders.
Right.
I'm sure Gronk in Vegas would be a great fit. There'd be no
single Brady.
I mean, hey. But yeah, I mean, I would make an effort. Why not? Why not make it? Hey, one more year, one more go. It is tough in the AFC West and all that. Obviously, Tom Brady's. They're leading the NFC South at 4-5 right now. So he's really just getting all the Brady boosts at all times. But yeah, that game was tough to watch. Obviously, doesn't help when you're averaging under 3 yards a carry yet again. But he's throwing the ball 48 times a game over the last 7 games with 58 throws today. I mean, Tom Brady is getting work out of that 45-year-old arm right now.
Yeah, it is something to behold. Okay, my big takeaway, I don't think this is that, crazy of a takeaway, but the Green Bay Packers, I think, should hit the reset button. And I think they should look to trade Aaron Rodgers. And I do think there are some teams out there that, because of where they're at this season and the way the NFL has played out this season, should be interested in, should think about it. I think the team that we saw on Sunday Night Football is one of those teams, the Tennessee Titans. Now, it would be hilarious because Rodgers would go from a team with no wide receivers to a team with no wide receivers, and that would be pretty classic. But maybe you bring Rodgers over there. You could sign Odell potentially. You could get, they have Robert Woods. I don't know. You could figure something out. But from a Green Bay Packers perspective, this is really bad. So here are the worst teams in EPA per pass play so far this season: Carolina Panthers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, the New York Jets, the New England Patriots. All of those teams have garbage heaped on top of garbage at quarterback. The team that comes after them are the Green Bay Packers. And they are paying a quarterback more than any other team in the NFL this season, right? All those other teams that I mentioned have quarterbacks that are either on a rookie deal or are journeyman quarterbacks. And then you go to a guy you're paying $50 million. So if you can't be better than, if you're not better than that group with Aaron Rodgers, I don't know what you're doing here. There's no real explanation for how poorly they're playing. And I think that what happened today, where you go to the Detroit Lions, a team that he has owned more than any other team, if you can't beat that team, in fact, you got embarrassed. You threw 3 interceptions, threw an interception to a defensive lineman in the red zone. It's time to go. And I think it works perfectly for Rodgers if Tennessee hits him up. But I guess, Brad, is it even tenable to, and Tennessee, of course, has the first round pick from the AJ Brown trade. So, they do have the draft capital, but is that something that's even possible? Could Rodgers get moved? What are the realm of potential outcomes given his contract?
So the way they set it up is that it's a year-to-year deal, and basically he has a $58 million option that's owed from the window is the day after the season ends to the day before week 1. And during that entire window, Green Bay can they probably won't pick it up, and they'll play mind games or figure out whatever they want to do. No, he is tradable. That is the one out that Green Bay has remaining, is to move on from him. Tennessee, I think, is a legitimately solid option. He'd have the easiest division in football, as they always seem to be. Yeah, I mean, Treylon Burks, I think, was good before he got hurt. Was coming on a little bit as a young receiver. So, look, you're upgrading from what you have in Green Bay, especially because Romeo Doubs left on a cart today. So it's even getting worse in Green Bay at this point. Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't hate the idea. You might be half kidding, but I actually think it's a legitimately reasonable idea.
I'm not kidding at all. I don't know what your other options are. I mean, it's almost a shame that the trade deadline is already passed because, that would have been a great thing for them to do in season. But I do think, they have to be thinking about this. And I think benching him is out of the realm of possibility. I think he would light the facility on fire, legitimately. Who would you like to see him go to, Ben?
I mean, I don't think it's probably possible from from a salary cap perspective or anything like that. But I do think from a team fit specifically, and Brad might hate on this, but I think the New Orleans Saints, at least with what they have, both defensively, some pieces, I would say a lot, at the wide receiver position, both young and old, that I do think he would gel with really well. Of course, like I said, with the contract situation and the fact that the Saints have pushed out, so much of their contract obligations to future years, I don't think they probably would have any possible way of working it from a monetary standpoint. But I think specifically from a team building standpoint and the fact that he would stay in the NFC for another year, I think Rodgers to the Saints would actually make a lot of sense from my perspective.
That'd be very interesting. Couple of good comments here. Someone said George and Ben's rooms are so boring. It looks like they're sitting next to each other. I can't confirm. I can't reach out and touch him. Jay said Aaron Rodgers trade. LOL. That dead cap for the Packers. But Brad,
not how it works, Jay. I appreciate the comment, but that's not how that works.
Someone said that Eric can be found tweeting about the Chanticleers at every college football game that is won an accident. If you're looking for our good friend Eric Eager, that is where you can find him. But shout out to every member of the printing press that hangs out with us on Sunday night. Ben, we'll get you out of here on this. We have the aforementioned Saints and the Baltimore Ravens on Monday Night Football. What angles do you have there? Any bets that you like?
I mean, I still think, given, the entire injury, considerations for both teams, I do think the Ravens are still the correct spot. Numbers obviously moved against you a little bit there, but I think even without offensive weapons, we're going to see, some semblance of productive offense from Lamar Jackson, specifically with his legs. But I also think they're going to have enough from Devin Duvernay and a couple other pieces, I would say, to probably cover that line. I don't really want to play anything, on the total, basically, but I think from a spread perspective, it's got to be Baltimore Ravens. Outside of that, I think Lamar Jackson to have a clean game, no interceptions, not fully buying into a Saints defense that I still think is kind of living on name recognition alone. So I think Lamar Jackson to have a little bit of a clean game, maybe rely more on his legs than his arm, but I think that's going to keep him basically, under 0.5 interceptions. So I think that's my favorite, early prop right now, but it's thin out there. I don't know if you guys have looked too much, but it is light given the injury considerations that we're still dealing with for Monday Night Football.
In Isaiah Likely, I trust.
Yes.
You can go check out, obviously, all of Ben's picks and recommendations on the PFF app and PFF.com. You download the app by typing in PFF into the iOS App Store and hitting download. You can also check out all of our player props, model recommendations, and spread money line and total recommendations there as well. A couple of comments here. Aaron Rodgers to the Commanders would be interesting. Bezos buys the team for $7 billion. Bezos and Rodgers deserve each other.
Right.
That's
a match made in heaven, right?
Oh,
there. That was the Commanders were going to be my second team if I didn't go with the Saints, and I had to factor in the injury or the salary obligations and everything else. Yeah.
By the way, Brad,
ayahuasca with Rodgers or Bezos
on a spaceship. Brad, on Sunday NFL Countdown today, Randy Moss called them the Washington Commodores.
Hey, we'll take it.
Called Terry McLaurin, Taylor McLaurin. It was a rough
you love to see it.
segment for my guy, Randy Moss. Someone else said Aaron Rodgers is a future Jet. I actually like that.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
That is a really good call. The LaFleur connection is there. Saleh is a guy. Saleh should be, mentioned Pete Carroll, coach of the year. I think Saleh should be coach of the year, obviously, given that Zach Wilson is his quarterback and they're winning football game. That is banana land. That's really interesting. Anyways, Ben, we always appreciate you. PFF_Ben Brown, one of the best follows on Twitter. Have a wonderful night. I guess I'll see you later as I walk out here.
Right.
Thank you for hanging out.
We'll catch you in the hallway later on tonight here for sure. So take it easy.
Thanks, Ben. All right, before we get to guest lines with Arjun, a quick reminder that Bro Throw is a place that you can go bet, even if betting is not legal in your state. There's a lot of places California might not be for a while. So go to Bro Throw. It's an exchange where you can bet against other people, and they pay you on Venmo, Cash App, wherever the hell it is. There's like 5 other ones that you can use. And here's the deal. You cannot sign up just in any regular way. You've got to use this link, brothrow.com/PFF. Be able to sign up. I've played on it. I've gotten paid. Trust me, it works. So go to brothrow.com/PFF. You pay no vig, bet 10, win 10, and you bet against other people. So it's an awesome place. And if you don't have, even if you do have betting regulated in your state, it's still pretty sweet because you don't pay a vig. So go to brothrow.com/PFF. Also, Underdog Fantasy. You may think that your fantasy season is over, but Underdog has you covered because they have a pick'em game that you can go play. You just guess higher or lower on up to 5 player props, and then you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. It is that easy. Use promo code PFF on underdogfantasy.com or the app, and you will get your first deposit doubled up to $100. It's that simple. Promo code PFF. Go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app and get your fantasy game back on track. Also, our friends at Western and Southern Financial. Not sure if you're aware of them. Members of the printing press should know, though. They're a great sponsor, and what they help you do is make smart roster moves with your money. Now is a good time to do that. Just saying. Maybe you're aware of where the economy is going. But if you're planning to start a family, trying to buy a house, just want to watch your money grow, go to Western and Southern. They can help you figure out the right solution for you. westernsouthern.com/PFF. All right. It is time to guess the lines. This is if you're new to the show, and I'm sure there are some new people. What we do is we guess the lines for the upcoming week, and we look at what the line actually is. We're obviously trying to be right, but if we are on a different side of the line, we may go ahead and bet it right here and now. The best time to bet spreads is early in the week because the line has not been pounded into efficiency by the millions of dollars that will get bet on it by Sunday. So it's a great opportunity to get involved. I encourage you to share this with your buddies and do it together because it's a lot of fun. That's why we do it together. And last week was we had an incredible week the week before, right? We went like 13-1-2, was destined to come back to earth a little bit, but still kept the winning ways going. I think Arjun, Brad, had the best week. Is that right?
4-2 for Arjun, 3-2 for yourself, 1-3-1 for your boy.
look, we win and we lose as a team. So we're gonna get everyone back on the schneid. I mean, look, I bet on the freaking Indianapolis Colts. So I mean, we've got to be better than that. We have an interesting slate of games here. I like Dallas Green Bay should have been an amazing game. I don't think anyone's that excited about it. Seattle Tampa Bay will be, I think, interesting. I'm curious to see where you guys are on that. And then we have your boy Justin Herbert, Arjun, is going to be playing my San Francisco 49ers on Sunday night. So we need to have a big bet for that game, and then we have Washington and Philly on Monday night. So let's get rocking and rolling. The way we do this is Arjun gives his guess first, then Brad, then myself, and we look at the actual number, and then we'll decide whether we're going to make a bet on either side. So we'll start with Thursday night. The Atlanta Falcons, a top 10 team in EPA per play, against the Carolina Panthers. I don't know if we know who's going to start this game. I don't think Wilkes has said so yet. I would guess it's going to be Baker, given what PJ Walker looked like today. But Arjun, would you make this one?
I had Falcons -3.5.
Panthers +3.
Right. Let me pull mine up here. I had this as a pick, and I believe it is Falcons -2.5. Arjun, what are you doing with this one?
I think I'm gonna lay off maybe a first quarter bet, but I think just in general it's a layoff. I haven't been as great with props this year, but I think I'm gonna hammer all the Cordell Patterson overs and anytime touchdown props. The Panthers defense just allowed Joe Mixon to score 5 touchdowns against them, and I watched Cordell Patterson absolutely bully my Los Angeles Chargers on the ground today. Patterson absolutely ended Drew Tranquil's life near the goal line. So Patterson overs, but in terms of the game, I'm laying off.
Yeah, I think this one with a Thursday game, like we just saw this past week, when you have the shortened schedule, the condensed, layover the next game, you're going to catch teams even like Philly against the Houston, kind of asleep in the first half. It's a different type of game. I don't know. I mean, Baker Mayfield's terrible. We all know that. Obviously, PJ Walker struggled today, but now you get a short week of Baker going back to being the starter. Not a lot of time to prep. I'll stay away, but the fact that it's less than a field goal makes me very interested in Atlanta, maybe depending how the week plays out.
Yeah. I'm not sold on the Falcons, and I also the funny thing about the Carolina Panthers, I mean, they were so embarrassed by the Bengals here. So I kind of like this spot for the Panthers. Atlanta, obviously a very stressful game, I guess you could call it, as most of them are against the Chargers. I'm going to lay off this one as well. I just want to mention this, though. The Carolina Panthers not trading Brian Burns for 2 firsts and a second has to be one of the worst did not trades that has ever been. And I like Carolina Panthers fans in 5 years when they're like, why does our team still suck? This is one of the reasons. Like that is ridiculous, and it would have been hilarious if the Rams had made that trade.
Get this too, real quick. Get this too. So I always thought, look, that's what we're hearing in the media, but I'm sure there were picks going back to the Rams. Mm-hmm. I had someone reach out to me and say there weren't. Like, it was actually 2 firsts and a second. Khalil Mack with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Bears still got a second-round pick back in that trade. Someone told me, and I trust this person, no, that was the offer. The Panthers not taking that is a crime.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. All right, we go now to let's go to Seattle, Tampa Bay, because this one is in Germany. And first NFL game in Germany. Arjun, would you make this?
I made this Seattle +1.
I got Tampa Bay laying 2.5.
I have Tampa Bay by 1.5, and I believe, let's see, that is what it is. Still, Tampa Bay -1.5. Arjun, what are you doing here?
I think I'm gonna be hopping back on the Seahawks wagon, full game this time. I think I fully believe in Geno. It still might be a small sample size, only half a season of data and stuff. But I mean, he's making legit NFL throws, and I think the Seahawks are a much more well-rounded team on offense than the Rams are. Like, every first down run with Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers is, just kind of shooting the drive into the trash can for the Rams. But Kenneth Walker's is a pretty damn good back, and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are miles ahead of the duo of Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson. So I like the Seahawks in the spot. I think their defense has been great the past couple of weeks, and I think they can pull it off in London, where a lot of the times playing overseas, I think, comes down to coaching, and I think Pete Carroll, Shane Waldron, and the Seahawks, Clint Hurst have done a tremendous job coaching the Seahawks this year.
So we're talking Bucks, right? It's Seattle versus the Bucks. I think you jumped into a Rams convo for a second there. Although the coaching conversation would go even further, because I think the Buccaneers may have the worst coaching staff in the NFL. So that applies. Just one thing I did want to touch on, though, you mentioned Clint Hurst and the Seahawks. That side of the ball has gotten a lot better. I mean, it's a couple weeks now. They're stacking good weeks on defense. Uchenna Wilson is still kind of the only guy that can generate a pass rush. The thing that scares me, though, is as good as George's favorite player in the NFL, Tariq Woolen, has been, it's Tom Brady against a bunch of rookie corners with a not very good pass rush. And it maybe, I don't know, it kind of scares me a little bit. Kobe Bryant in the slot has been exploitable. Chris Godwin's starting to stack some good weeks as well. Played well today. Kind of the only guy who really was consistently open. So I'm almost kind of like you, George, when you bet the Bucs against the Ravens. I kind of want to go back to my preseason priors and say, if you told me before the season began as a look-ahead line, I could have Tom Brady on the international stage laying less than a field goal against the Seattle Seahawks, I would be like, where do I sign up? Like, where can I put my money? So I'll do it. I'm going to take the Bucs minus 1.5? I'm taking it.
Mm-hmm. I really like the Seahawks as a teaser leg here. So I want to see if there's some other teaser opportunities, and then come back to this. I think if I had to bet one side of the spread, kind of with you, Brad, a little bit, but the comments that Byron Leftwich has made this week are like we thought we were done with. It's not about rushing yards, it's about rushing attempts. Legitimately, they believe that it's just the number of rushing attempts they just need more of them. I don't know how you can have that takeaway looking at Leonard Fournette run the football, but that is what they have. So that scares me. Detroit, Chicago, Justin Fields. I just want to say, like, if you guys, before we get to guessing the spread here, if you redraft that class right now, who are you? What's the order of the quarterbacks that you're taking? I'll start with you, Arjun.
All right. I'm still going Lawrence at 1, but I'm definitely going Fields at 2, which is what I had a pre-draft. I think I'm still going Lance at 3, Wilson at 4, Mac Jones at 5.
I'm flipping a little bit. So same top 2. And Lawrence did actually finally play well today, in their win over the Raiders. But then I'm still going to go Zach Wilson, then I guess Trey Lance, then Mac Jones. And we just have no idea what Trey Lance is. He played a season of FCS football. He could be good for all we know. I think we're seeing quarterbacks like, that have his skill set, obviously, are playing some good football. But I mean, I don't know what he is at this point. So I'll stick with, Wilson slinging it at BYU and the Cougar hunting after Cougars.
I'll just say this. I think push come to shove, I would probably take Lawrence. But that team invested a ton in Trevor Lawrence with receivers and a head coach and all the different things. They tried to make Trevor Lawrence's environment better. Justin Fields is playing with like the worst supporting cast ever. And if there was one thing about that quarterback class that I would bet on, it's Justin Fields' athleticism. And it's been phenomenal. And his passing game he started to figure it out a little bit over the past few weeks. So I think it's Trey Lance 3, Zach Wilson 4, only because we know that Zach Wilson is not very good, I think, at this point. And I saw the Josh Allen, Zach Wilson comparison on TV today. I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit. But for everyone that was hating on Justin Fields, I think they should take take a look at some of the tape. It's been incredible. 180 yards on the ground today. It was nuts. And it was fluid. I mean, the guy is an absolute beast. Okay. Chicago hosting Detroit. Arjun, what's the line?
Lions plus 1.5.
I had the Bears laying 2.5.
I have the Bears laying 2.5 as well. I can't believe that I'm doing that, but that is what I have them doing. And let's see here. It is seeing the line up here. Here it is. Bears 2.5. Arjun, what are you doing with this?
I'm gonna lay off. The vaunted Lions defense finally showed up today, and I'm not sure if that's really going to continue next week against the Bears. The Bears defense is also pretty bad. It's kind of just a battle between the two offenses, and we're not going to have a dome Jared Goff, and Justin Fields has been playing well, but you don't know if he's going to go back to that weeks 1 through 4 Justin Fields. So it's a tough one. I think I'm gonna just lay off in this one.
So we don't do obviously totals here. I already bet the over 48.5 in this game. I think we could see 80 points in this matchup. I mean, neither team can stop the run at all. They're literally the two worst teams in EPA per rush allowed. I want to say that might need to update from this week, but they're both very much so at the bottom of that list, and it only gets worse with the loss of Roquan Smith, for that Bears defense. And then, Detroit, I guess, they did have 3 red zone interceptions and a goal line stand all today against the Green Bay Packers. But the Packers could have scored 28 points on those possessions, obviously. It could have looked different. I almost bet a live over there. Thankfully, I didn't. But yeah, so I am not taking a spread in this one. The Bears fan of me wants to just absolutely clobber the Bears -2 or 2.5. But the over, I think, is a very intriguing bet.
Yeah, I'm not betting this one either. I think if push came to shove, I would take the Bears here, but both defenses just stink. So less than 3. I'm going to lay off here. A good game, finally. Minnesota goes to Buffalo. Arjun, what's your spread here?
Vikings +7.
I had the same.
I couldn't push it over 7. I have Bills by 6.5, and it is right now Bills by 7.5. But the Vikings +7.5 is -115. So that might get to 7 at some point here. Arjun, are you betting either side of this?
I think I'm gonna. This is gonna be a great live betting opportunity. Kirk Cousins, somehow always makes games like a 1-score game. Bills can run out the score early against not that great Vikings defense, but I think it's tough because Bills are obviously the superior team. Vikings have kind of outperformed their point differential. A lot of their games have been 1-score games, but Kirk somehow down 10 in the fourth quarter somehow won that game, and I think he always finds a way to reel things back in. So I think I'm going to lay off, but I think this would be a great live betting opportunity if Bills do very well in the first half.
Every week that he wins, Kirk throws another chain on, and young Kirk is Kirk Cobangs out here is starting to look. No, the thing is, like you said, it was another 1-score win. I'm not going to say it was cheap because I think the ref running into I think it was Harrison Smith, maybe it was Cam Bynum, the Vikings safety, which led to basically the only actually good touchdown drive the Commanders had. It was hilarious. The ref was literally directly in the way. It would have been a clear interception on Taylor Heineke, and instead was a 50-yard catch for Curtis Samuel. But even still, Heineke's interception at the end of the game was atrocious. They should have won that game. Just Minnesota. My thing is their defense, I think, is going to get carved up by Josh Allen in this Bills offense. It's obviously going to be playing pretty pissed off after this Jets performance. It's the cornerbacks. Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed were the reason why Josh Allen had 2 interceptions, could not get his guys open. Mm-hmm. I think they need to add Odell Beckham Jr. more than any team we talk about. Gabriel Davis is a one-trick pony, is not actually that good of a receiver in my opinion. Maybe that's a hot take. Wow. But anyway, I still think they're going to carve this Vikings defense. And then this defensive line is going to terrorize Kirk Cousins. When I put it at -7, I was hoping it was 6.5. And if it was, I would have bet it. I'm not going to bet it with the hook because that kind of scares me. But if it was under 7, I would have hammered it.
I see all those points. And I'll say this, the total right now, 47.5. I like that total. I like the over in that total. I know unders have been killing it, but I like that over quite a bit. I like this as live betting opportunity as well. I think the Vikings come out and their scripted plays play well, and then once those plays are over, I could see it getting kind of ugly for Kirk here. So, but I'm a full point. I'm across the key number. I do like what Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings are doing, keeping it within 1-score game. So I'm going to get on the board here with a bet. I will take the Minnesota Vikings plus 7.5. I can't believe I'm doing that. And my God, the chain Kirk Cousins is so bad. So bad. All right. Denver, Tennessee. This is in Tennessee. I'm guessing Ryan Tannehill will be back for this. Arjun, what's your spread?
I have Titans -2.
I have Titans -1.5.
I have the Titans with Ryan Tannehill by 3 in this one. Are you guys seeing a line anywhere? Because
I'm seeing
just
2.5.
2.5 here. I see that as well. Arjun, what are you doing with that?
It's an interesting one because I think so Broncos are coming off a bye, right? And now this Titans defense has just played a game where they've played like 90 something snaps, right? So you have a huge like rest differential like between the two teams. The Titans the team in general is just so well coached. And the Broncos are not very well coached, and the Titans defense looked great. I'm not I wouldn't be too worried about the Titans going and playing 90 snaps today and going to have to face Russell Wilson, but this Broncos defense is legit, right? And I think if anything, the only way the Titans would be able to beat them is through the ground, which I think they can do. So I think I'm gonna rock with Titans -2.5 here.
Wow, I hate to bet against the winner. I'm doing it again, though. It's surprising. My strategy last week of betting on awful football teams against good ones did not work out. Taking the Colts against the Patriots and Bill Belichick with Sam Ehlinger, I'm shocked that didn't go my way. I can cling to some CLV, but I'm taking Denver. Look, Tennessee's defense did look really, really good tonight. Their interior is a problem. Entire Tart's a good player. Danico Autry, I guess, more of an edge, but kind of can kick inside, play 4-eye, play over the tackle. They are good, but I think the rest advantage is a big deal. And I think the defense, it's going to be so low scoring. Maybe Denver's an intriguing teaser leg as well for me, because I think it'll be a 1-score game either way. But I'm gonna ride with the Broncos.
So I do really like the Broncos as a teaser leg, but at 2.5, I think against the spread, I'm with Arjun. I like the Titans here. Think about most teams during the bye cooking up some, new offensive plays to run to help their team out. Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson doing that, there's no way that's going to work out well. It's just they're sitting in a room together eating danger witches, trying to come up with new plays for them to run. Nathaniel Hackett's like, "This is sweet, Russ. You could throw it over the middle. This guy will be wide open." Russ like, "Yeah, that'd be great." That's just not going to go well. And you think about some of the strengths that the Titans have, and the Broncos. They're a really good pass defense. And I just think against the run, this would be an opportunity for the Titans to kind of get it together. I am nervous, though, if it's Malik Willis, because I actually don't think it was Malik Willis's fault. He threw some dimes and guys just didn't catch the ball. The problem is that too often he's completely lost, and that results in a loss of 20 on a sack. So that would worry me a little bit. But Jeffrey Simmons on the interior should have a bunch of opportunities to win there. That Titans defense is no joke. So I am going to go. I don't know how to actually write this down. I'm going to go Titans -2.5, and then I'm also going to go with that teaser and do Denver plus 8.5, and who was the other one? Seattle plus 7.5. Jacksonville in Kansas City. Arjun.
I have this at Jacksonville plus 9.
Yeah, I got Kansas City laying a full 10.
I have KC 10 as well. It is KC -9.5, -115. Arjun.
I'm gonna lay off this one. I've been kind of high on the Jags for most of the season. They were like my highest conviction bet this week. So like I think they have a chance to stay competitive in this game, but we just saw the Chiefs masterclass today, and staying at home, it's a tough one to kind of bet against them there. So I'm just gonna lay off this one.
I'm staying away as well. Yeah, a little shout out to our guy Andrew. No one knows him better than Doug Peterson, obviously, and maybe that can help a little bit. It's a stay away. If anything, I would lean Jaguars, not taking them, but if anything, that's my lean.
I'm with you. And if it wasn't such a kind of disappointing offensive performance for Kansas City, I think I would be on Jacksonville as well. Jacksonville is 7th in EPA per pass play this season, and they just have not kind of put all of things together. And the problem is that Lawrence has been kind of such a disaster under pressure. But I'm with you guys there. Next up, we have Cleveland going to Miami to play the Dolphins, and Tua, who I saw has the highest passer rating on third down of like any quarterback in the past 10 years. It's insane. They're playing absolutely lights out, and makes me wonder. I mean, for all of the Herbert Tua stuff, Arjun, watching Herbert play this weekend with those wide receivers and thinking about what he could do with Hill and Waddle as Tua floats underthrown deep balls at a ridiculous rate, makes me kind of chuckle. So, Arjun, what'd you make this spread?
I made this Browns plus 3.5.
Same here.
I have the Dolphins favored by 4.5. And it is 4 right in between the two of us. Arjun, what are you doing with this one?
First of all, I just got to say, Tua is just a winner. 5-0 in games that he's finished. He's beaten the vaunted Lions, the 2-6 Lions by 4. The vaunted 2-6 Bears by 4 or by 3. Didn't even cover the 4.5.
3-6 Bears. Excuse you.
3-6. Yeah, I'm sorry. And then 2-6 Steelers by 6. So very impressive performances by the Dolphins and Tua, obviously. But I actually really like the Browns in the spot. I think we saw Justin Fields kind of just shred the Dolphins defense on the ground. I think the weak point of the Dolphins defense is their ground game. Amari Cooper has been playing at a pretty high level, and I wouldn't say Xavier Howard's been playing that well this year. And on the flip side, again, I think the Dolphins do a couple things very well, and they were like lights out on third down. Like the Bears couldn't get off the field on third down because they were playing so much man. But, according to our stats, like the Browns play man about 25% of the time, which is below league average. I would like this more if I can know that Denzel Ward is back, because I think that will be huge. But regardless, I think the Browns are smart enough to not play man at all, and I think that will kind of expose some of Tua's weaknesses next Sunday.
I see the game very much the same way. Tua, we'll make our jokes. He did have a couple, underthrown DPIs that were, basically, kind of game deciding. I mean, the Jalen Waddle ball that he just completely underthrew that gave the Bears a chance to win the game. It could have ended the game. It could have been 6 points. He did have a lot of nice throws, though. I mean, he's probably going to be our highest graded quarterback of the week again this week. And he earned it. He made not a lot of nice plays. But I agree with you. I don't like the matchup much at all. Even though I don't know about Denzel Ward, it sounds like he's had multiple concussions now in a short span and might want to be out for an extended period of time. But I agree with you on kind of the mismatch component. And yeah, over a field goal. I mean, we love our Browns, so I'm staying away. But I see it the same way as you.
Yeah, I'm tempted. I think even though I have had Miami at minus 4.5, I can get on board with that. One of the reasons I had 4.5 is I think I thought the market would really like, the Dolphins. They've continued to win. They have a really efficient offense. Hill and Waddle are unstoppable. And I like Cleveland with, a bunch of rest there. And they're just going to come out and kind of do what they do, which is run the ball with a ton of efficiency. And that, I think, to what we saw with Justin Fields today, can keep the game close. I'm going to hop on the bandwagon here. I'm going to roll with the Brownies as well. Houston and the Giants. The Giants coming off of a bye. Houston coming off of keeping it close and covering against the Eagles. Arjun.
Texans +6.
Same here.
I have the Houston Texans +5.5, and it is 6.5. People like the Giants. 6.5 -115.
Yeah, I think in terms of game spreads, definitely going to stay away just because I think 6 is a lot of points for a Giants team that, again, has kind of really just outperformed expectations this year. Definitely love the Saquon Barkley overs. We'll see what they open the rushing yard prop lines at. Texans have gotten shredded by like every single running back that they've gone against, touchdowns, rushing yards, you name it. So in terms of full game spreads, though, I think 6 is a lot of points for this Giants team.
Yeah, I like that. Actually, they are 31st in EPA per rush allowed. I was looking at that obviously before the show. That's the Texans. Miles Sanders, it was 8 yards a clip. It was too easy. And also, I mean, Brandon Cooks, like we still don't know if this guy is going to show up. He is clearly their number one wide receiver. I like Nico Collins as a young player, but I mean, he didn't play on Thursday either. But even if he's back, like he's not a number one. So, I can't touch Houston, but I also agree. I mean, the Giants are not good enough to be laying 6 points against anyone. So it's a stay away. And yeah, the Barkley prop, definitely an intriguing, line to watch there.
Total is 38.5. 6.5 points, total of 38.5. I hate that I'm doing this, but I'm gonna ride with Davis Mills. Getting 6.5 points. My God, I'm gonna regret.
We should have actually in the rankings of 2021 quarterbacks. I would have snuck Mills Mafia in there.
Yeah,
my bad. To Mills, I forgot to include him in that one.
We forgot. It's really not great. The Giants are winning, one score games. It's just what they're doing, and I don't think that's going to change. That they're going to stop winning one score games and close games, but that means that this one stays close, and so I will take the 6.5. New Orleans and Pittsburgh. New Orleans obviously playing on Monday night this week. Pittsburgh with a bye. Arjun.
I do have a question before we guess this line. Like you kind of mentioned how one score games like the Giants could stay stay performing very well. Yeah, stay hot in one score games this season. Like we've kind of talked about how one score games are kind of like regress back to the mean over a season, but like within a season, I wonder, do you think that's something that's sticky just because like the players and the coaches stay stable on that team, obviously the Raiders are a great regression example from year over year, but within a season, do you think that's something that could stay stable for teams like the Vikings and the Giants?
Yeah, so the way I think about it is that, and I've had this conversation with Timo, and I think Brad, we've talked about it a little bit off the podcast. So here's my thought, Arjun, and I'm curious if you would agree or disagree here. So within a season, I think about the way that you can sort of keep, or the way that you might win one score games. And what I see with the Giants is they're doing some things that are catching some teams off guard. Right, they're playing kind of this interesting brand of football where they're running their quarterback a lot. They have a lot of this 6 offensive lineman stuff, and so I think on a week-to-week basis, it's very hard for opposing teams to really study what a team is doing and kind of prepare to really stop it if it's something that's a little bit new or unique. They're kind of just trying to figure out their own shit, for lack of a better term. So that's how I think about it staying somewhat consistent during the year. And then I think the time to fade it is obviously going to the next year where things kind of, normalize because people watch and spend time. And those kind of tricks won't work anymore. So that's how I think about it. That's why I could see this sustaining for the Giants this year. On the flip side, with someone like let's say the Pittsburgh Steelers from a few seasons ago, that I did not think was going to sustain during the season because they just had a quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger who was absolutely awful, and their defense was kind of carrying them. And so that was something that in season I felt was going to regress to the mean.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Appreciate that answer. I definitely align with that view as well. So yeah, getting back to this game, Saints Steelers, I'm gonna go with Saints -3.
Same again.
I am there with you, fellas. Pittsburgh getting 3 points at home, and it is 3. Although Steelers +3 is -114. on FanDuel. Arjun, you doing anything here?
I think if it gets below 3, I would take the Saints. Obviously, depends on how they look tomorrow on Monday Night Football. But, Steelers receivers with Pickens and Deontay Johnson are very good coming off a bye. Saints have not had Marshawn Lattimore for weeks now. I know like Paulson Adebo and I think Alontae Taylor have been their corners for the past couple of weeks. And I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is the best quarterback to take advantage of that, but it's tough when like the Saints don't really have the matchup advantage on the outside. On probably both sides of the ball. I think Devin Bush and Miles Jack have been playing better than in years past at linebacker, and so the Alvin Kamara versus linebackers matchup I don't think will end up the way that it did versus the Raiders. So I'm definitely just going to stay away from this game unless it drops below 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive rest advantage from Monday night versus a bye. Also we've seen kind of the heroic coaching efforts of, well, I guess every week that passes, the Buccaneers win is less impressive for Pittsburgh, but still, I mean, they were without their top 3 starting corners, no Minka Fitzpatrick. My question is it possible TJ Watt plays in this football game? I know he was relatively close the last time they played. Didn't ultimately get activated, but now with the bye week, we haven't heard anything about it. But he's like, maybe a 1 point, half a point player. Maybe he's back to his full health. So I'm staying away without that information. But I would lean Steelers here as much as I love my Saints.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. By the way, some good comments in the chat because I'm not going to play this game. Welcome to the Kirkside, George. Thank you. That comes with chains included. And then this one was great. No need to hate on Tua because Herbert is a check down merchant. I am a huge fan of like words to use that people don't use that are kind of from the way back. Like I love the word peasant. I've overused the word peasant. Merchant, I think is great here because it's like there's a little bit of it which is said, in a derogatory fashion. But at the same time, like you're still trying to make money in that fashion. Check down merchant for Herbert, I like a lot. And someone liked your question, Arjun. So good for you. We go now to the Colts and the Raiders. My God, what a disaster of a game. By the way, a revenge game of sorts for both teams, right? Because McDaniels was the coach and then not the coach, and then they went to Reich. I don't know if any of that matters, but Arjun, what do you think the line will be here?
I have this at Colts +5.
I had Raiders -4.5.
I have the Raiders -4.5 as well. It is 5.5. Interesting. Arjun?
Yeah, I don't think the Colts are bettable at all with Sam Ehlinger. Like, I'm sorry. Their defense has been fine for the past couple of weeks, but again, it's tough to really evaluate their defense versus Mac Jones and the Patriots. The Raiders. So here's the thing about the Raiders: they were shredding the Jaguars through the air, and for some reason, Josh McDaniels went back to Josh Jacobs in the second half, which it's fine. Jacobs has been having a career year, but when Devontae has 120 and 2 tutties in the first half, and you go away from that, I just it kind of just speaks on like where the Raiders are at. They haven't figured it out yet. I'm not going to bet on them to figure it out against the Colts. And I'm obviously not going to bet on Sam Ehlinger. So this is a stay away from me.
You mentioned if it matters, the whole McDaniels thing. I mean, I could see Frank Reich getting fired after this game if it's as bad as what we just saw, because then you have, you're losing to the coach I was supposed to hire and all these things. And obviously Irsay has been just irate the entire season. Not that it really plays into the bet. I mean, Darren Waller's still out with the hamstring injury. I'm not sure if he's even back for this game. So, but it's also just a bad matchup. I mean, the Colts offensive line is atrocious. And I talked about how Chandler Jones has not been good. It's basically been Max Crosby by himself, but maybe that eventually, we kind of see some regression there in a positive light for the Raiders. Raiders are interesting because the Colts are atrocious. I can't believe, George, you and I both took them against the Patriots pretty confidently as well.
So funny when I took him in the circa millions as well, like an idiot. And my buddy Ross and I were like, we're going to regret taking a rookie quarterback in his second start against Bill Belichick. This is not Bill Belichick coaching the Raiders. Let's be very clear there. So I'm very tempted. I am very tempted. I love Frank Reich. Terrible spot for the Colts. I mean, god-awful, terrible spot. This, totally different. In a dome, in Vegas, there's just like no home field advantage there. 5.5 points. I love Frank Reich. I'm going to bet this game tonight.
Go back to the well.
I'm
I respect
taking
it.
the Colts plus 5.5. All right, Dallas, Green Bay in Green Bay. I put in my notes LOL next to the spread that I wrote down here. I'm curious if you join me. Arjun, what'd you make this?
I made this Cowboys minus 5.5.
I had Packers plus 3.5.
Okay. So, Arjun, you are joining me. I made this Green Bay plus 4.5. And it is 4.5, which is hilarious. When is the last time that Aaron Rodgers was more than a 3-point underdog at home? That cannot have happened very frequently. Arjun, are you betting this one?
Yeah, I'm gonna ride with the Cowboys here. So one thing about the Packers, I think Brad touched on it. Like there were like 3 end zone interceptions. Just our friend Kevin Cole's adjusted scores are probably gonna have the Packers scoring more than 9 points in this game. The Packers defense was fine as it's kind of been all year, but I think the Cowboys defense is going to pose some serious problems. Like when the Cowboys want to man up in this game, I don't see the Packers like having much success at all. Aaron Jones left the game due to injury. I don't think he came back. Even if Bakhtiari's playing and he's not going to be at full health, that Cowboys defensive line is absurd, and I think they're going to have their way with the Packers offensive line. And on the flip side of the ball, like the Packers defense is fine. They're very good at the secondary level, but I still think they're a soft rushing defense. Currently, they rank 27th in EPA per play, or EPA per rush, and 29th in rushing success rate. And the Cowboys will pound the ball, whether it is with Zeke or Pollard. So I think they'll have some success through the ground. So I definitely like the Cowboys in the spot on the road. Because
they were on a bye, we've forgotten about Jerry Jones just vigorously defending the fact that he paid Ezekiel Elliott a ridiculous amount of money. That was fantastic. Brad, are you betting this one?
It's like us chasing bets. It's like him chasing his bad investments at running back. Even though I did bet the short side. So we mentioned a couple injuries. The Packers also had Rashawn Gary leave the game early today. Mm-hmm. Eric Stokes, their cornerback, also left the game earlier today. I mentioned Romeo Doubs. The list goes on and on and on. I'll hop on. Let's go Cowboys.
Wow. Does this mean I have to join you fellas here?
First Soch?
I don't know. Actually, I won't do that because I want you guys to win your bets. I'm not going to hop off on this one because there's a part of me that believes LaFleur and Rodgers are actually like good buddies, and they're gonna work to try and like get this thing back on track. And Green Bay at home in this spot, I think is an interesting one, even against a Dallas team. Now, a Dallas team that should be very good, but will be interesting to see how like Dak and that offense kind of get back together here. So I'll lay off and let you guys win that one without me, because remember, we win and we lose as a team. Arizona and Los Angeles. Arjun.
I made this Cardinals plus 3.
Same here.
I have the Rams by 4.5. And the reason I have the Rams by 4.5 is because Sean McVay and the Rams own Cliff Kingsbury and the Arizona Cardinals. But I can understand where both of you guys are coming from. It is Rams by 3.5 in this one.
Yeah. So the Cardinals just looked flat as anything. I thought, the Seahawks defense have been playing well, but it's still like at a fundamental level, not a very good team, not a very good defense from its players. But I don't know. Kyler Murray, 175 yards against this offense or against this defense is not impressive. DeAndre Hopkins had like 2 catches in the first drive, and then he had 2 catches the rest of the game. it's a tough one because like I think the Cardinals are actually a better away team than they are at home, but obviously like you don't really want to read into those splits too much. I mean, Rams suck, Cardinals are not good. I don't really have a great edge in this game, so I think it's best to stay away and just let this game play out.
Let this game play out in silence.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the thing is, there's no such thing as a road game against an LA football team, so
True.
it technically is a pseudo, road/home game. I'm also staying away from the spread, but the 43.5 total, the under there is intriguing. Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals' offense is not good. The Rams' offense is beyond broken. That I think, if anything, I would maybe look into the under 43.5 there.
I'm very tempted. Aaron Donald going against that interior disaster of an offensive line. And like, I mean, Hopkins is absolutely amazing, but that's why you have Jalen Ramsey. That's literally the reason you have him. And then everything else is kind of garbage. I mean, Robbie Anderson looks lost. I'm not worried that Rondale Moore is going to beat me. So I'm very, very tempted. But at the same time, the offense is just so terrible. But they should have won that game today against the Bucs. Didn't manage to. 3.5 is a lot for a team that can't score. I'm going to lay off. I'm going to save my dollars for the next game. Sunday night, Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Football Chargers go to San Francisco to play the 49ers. Will the Chargers have a wide receiver that anyone has heard of? Do we know? Like, is that?
We've been talking about Keenan Allen on this show for like 6 weeks in a row.
My guy needs to do some yoga. Okay,
it's unbelievable. Yeah, he needs to get the quad stretched out. So Mike Williams is no. He'll be out for a while. Keenan's a maybe, but like I can't promise anything. Yeah, there was someone in the chat earlier who said, "What is a Michael Bandy?" You tell me. Your guess is as good as mine as to what a Michael Bandy is. But anyway, yeah. So the long answer short, I have no idea. If anything, it'll be just Keenan, but I don't think he'll be 100% healthy.
And San Francisco coming off a bye. Arjun, what's the spread here?
Okay, before I guess the spread, I do want to say I bet this look ahead during this Chargers-Falcons game when Chargers went down 10-0. I was like, Chargers can't stop the run. It's gonna be bad next week. I put like 2.5 units on 49ers minus 4.5. So I haven't seen the updated line before Sunday Night Football. I made this Chargers +7.
You got some CLV, my friend. I have Niners laying 6.
I have the Niners. I felt really good. This was the one line that I feel like I nailed. I have the Niners minus 6.5, which Arjun, fantastic bet. I wish you would let me know. I would have bet on that. It is Niners minus 6.5. So Arjun, I guess you're not going to double down here, but I don't know if you want to count this as a bet or not since you have it at 7.
Look, I still love this at 6.5. Like, look, I think, Steven Ruiz said this on Twitter. Like, the Chargers defense is just soft. Like, I think they have all the talent in the world. Like, they've assembled a great roster in terms of like the names, but this team is just soft. Like, they have like allowed Cordell Patterson to run all over them. I think the highlight of this game was Brandon Staley's blitzes in the after the scripted plays from the Falcons. But the Chargers ranked 31st in rush EPA. Kyle Shanahan likes to run the ball about 4% more than expected. Coming off a bye, I mean, he beat Brandon Staley's defense both times in 2020 when Brandon Staley was the defensive coordinator for the Rams. Like Brad said, like Keenan's probably not going to play, or if he is, he's probably going to be on a pitch count. The 49ers play one of the most physical brands of football on the defensive side of the ball, headed by D'Amico Ryans, who's one of the most physical linebackers of all time. The Chargers receivers against physical coverage, as we saw in the Broncos game, will struggle immensely. I don't see the Chargers having any success on the road this game. The D-line is probably going to have their way with this Chargers offensive line, which has struggled. There's no edge anywhere for the Chargers, and this is just pointing towards the Niners just handling business on prime time for everyone to see.
I completely agree too, because we talked about a lot this year. The Chargers lack, even when they do have healthy receivers, they lack an early in the shot clock separator. So they do not have it on the roster. And you need that against this defense, the 49ers. You look at every single matchup, and I think you'd say it's in favor. Also, not only are they physically soft or whatever, mentally soft, they play so much soft coverage. Brandon Staley and this Rams defense does it now too with Raheem Morris, but they just play off. And if you're playing against Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and McCaffrey, and you're giving them 7-8 yards in the beginning, they're yak monsters. They're the yak boys. Like that's what it's all about. So I don't find a single angle of this where I like the Chargers. So yeah, I'll ride with you.
George, before you speak, this will be the game that we'll get to see why Kyle Shanahan traded all those picks for Christian McCaffrey. Trust me.
And the last game, by the way, just in case you know. All of the reasons that you just mentioned, I think make a ton of sense here, and why I would probably bet some alt lines. I think here, so I'm gonna put this down as a bet, but I would take Niners, like minus 10.5, maybe minus 13.5. Here, the Los Angeles Chargers barely beat the Atlanta Falcons today. I just want everyone to kind of let that sink in here for a second. But that was a stressful game. They're coming back. They also play the Chiefs the following week, which is a very, very big game for them, obviously. So kind of an interesting spot for them here. And yeah, I mean, the coming off a bye thing is certainly baked in. The fact that the Los Angeles Chargers, I think, might be one of the worst of teams that are good, might be like one of the worst matchups for to play against the San Francisco 49ers, might not be. So I will ride with you all on that. It's actually kind of comedic to look at the Niners weapons and compare it to the Chargers. It's like the Chargers have Austin Eckler. It's like the Niners have Christian McCaffrey. They have Brandon Ayuk. They have Deebo Samuel. They have George Kittle. They have Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, it's a who's who of names, really. And next year they'll have Tom Brady, so that'll be even more exciting. Washington and Philly close the Week 10 out. This is Monday night in Philadelphia. Arjun?
I made this Commanders plus 10.
I had, Philly minus 10.
I have it 10.5. I gave him the hook, and it is 10.5 Philadelphia. Arjun, what are we doing here?
We're going back to the wagon. That is the Eagles' first half. Look, it didn't cash for us on Thursday, unfortunately. If you ran back the second half spread, which I'm sure was probably 7.5 or 8, it cashed then. The Eagles still have the number one offense in terms of EPA per play in the first half. The Commanders sit at 30th out of 32 teams. Eagles will be at home. They're coming off the mini bye. Commanders are one of the worst teams in terms of scripted plays. I'm not saying the Eagles are great on scripted plays, but they kill in the second quarter like they always do each game this year. I think all data points point towards the Eagles just being an elite, the better team in the first half. And I'm going to go back to the wagon until the second wheel falls off. Then I might have to stop.
What is back to the wagon? What does that mean?
Like keep betting the wagon.
Is that like? Oh, I see what you're saying. You're gonna stay on the wagon.
Yeah. Wagons can still run with that one wheel, but once you lose two,
So I'm joining you on the first half bet. The one thing that is, I think interesting is now seeing Jordan Davis list Philadelphia Eagles team. On-off splits are noisy for sure, but the Eagles' run defense is bad. It's a problem. They're actually allowing, I want to say, again, top 5 in EPA per rush allowed. We saw it against Houston. Dameon Pierce, at over 5 yards per carry. They can't win there, but at the same time, I think they're becoming one of those teams that's so good where it's like you want teams to run on you because that means they're not passing against you, and they're going to waste time on offense. They're going to need these perfect 8-9 play drives, and Taylor Heineke cannot do that. He needs an explosive play, or he's going to turn the ball over or make a dumb mistake. He can't actually sustain drives. So love the first half bet there. I was in Philly this weekend. The vibes are high, even though they became the first city in the history of professional sports to lose 2 championships in the same day. The Philadelphia Union lost. We were at a bar for that one. And then the Phillies lost a couple hours later. So I think the Eagles, go Birds. You got to ride the wave back to the positive.
I'll hop on board on the Eagles first half. The Taylor Heineke show is so bad, but like just good enough, and the good enough does not happen early on in the game. So I'll get on board with that. This was a lot of fun as usual. We are going to write up our favorite picks. I am looking at the board right now, and I already have 7 bets. So this is going to be hopefully we play some smart ones here. But you can go check it out on the PFF app and PFF.com. We'll have our favorite early bets posted early in the morning. You can go hop on board with those. If you are catching this late, if you hung out with us live, as usual, we love you. Thanks so much for hanging out, members of the printing press. We'll be back with you next Sunday night after the Niners Wild Rompus. Have a great week. Peace.